9 here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports. Producer today is Manny Chang. We're going to talk Heat today on the program. That's what we do quite a bit. Also, check out 5 on the Floor from last night, where Greg and I get into the Love and Zeller impact so far, or in Love's case, maybe at times lack of impact. We are sponsored here today, as always, by our friends over at PrizePicks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. Again, you can download it from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, or prizepicks.com. Use that code 5, F-I-V-E. And again, you can play any sport there, anywhere from 2 to 6 players, flex play, power play. It's all in your hands. But you got to use the code 5 to get that initial deposit matched up to $100. We're also sponsored by our friend Danny over at All Pro Construction Builders. Check him out on Instagram. Thanks, Manny, for throwing that up there, because this is the place that you want to go. They got a website that's coming here soon, too. But mention 5 Reasons. You get 10% off. Why reach out to them? You need the storm windows, okay? I know it doesn't seem like it right now in March. It's beautiful. Haven't even been any humidity. Doesn't seem like it's even going to rain. We know it's going to rain. We know that there's going to be hurricane warnings and all that kind of stuff in the fall. Make sure that your house or your apartment or whatever it is protected. Reach out to All Pro Construction Builders. Again, the phone number, I always have to, because my eyes are not so good these days, 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. Reach out to Danny directly. He's a huge Miami Heat fan. All right, speaking of the Heat, they play again tonight. Second of a back-to-back kind of thingy with that day in between against the Atlanta Hawks. They held Trae Young completely down in the last game. I believe it was 2 of 13 from the field. One of many games that Trae has struggled against Miami, and it looks like they have a chance to salvage this homestand. But look, there were different parameters for success in this homestand, okay? I said I thought they would be 2-4, and right now they're 1-2, so they're on their way. And that came after the loss. That came after the win in Philadelphia, which we're like, okay, you got one to make up for the Charlotte loss, which you shouldn't have lost. Second time you lost up there. You get the win in Philadelphia, but then you blow it against an Embiid-less Philadelphia team the next game. So now you're 1-2, and kind of where my group kind of went with this is it looked like 2-4, but you needed to be 4-2. So right now, you got to win the last 3 if you're going to make any impact in this trip, which means making up ground on Cleveland when you play them. You got 2 games against them, and also kind of leaving Atlanta in your wake, which is what you need to do, because the Raptors are playing reasonably well right now. There's no guarantee that the Heat will even get the top play-in spot, the 7th spot. They may be stuck in the 8th spot, and in the 8th spot, then you're at risk of missing the whole damn thing. So, we know that Milwaukee and Boston are going to be challenges for them, no question, but you at least want to get to the postseason. You make it even harder, because I don't consider the play in the postseason if you end up in the 8 or 9 seed for the play-in, and even could slip to 10 if things really went wrong. So look, Miami needs to leave Atlanta in its wake, needs to make up ground on Cleveland, but mostly it needs to build on some of the things we saw in the last game. So Greg and I touched on these things. This is not a perfect team. It's not going to be a perfect team. It's certainly not going to be a perfect offensive team. That's one of the reasons Brady believes they should lean into defense at this stage, because at least we know that they can do that. But there are things they can do to be more impactful overall than they've been, okay? The first thing is Jimmy needs to play, and he needs to play more minutes. I don't really understand what's going on there. I asked Eric Spoelstra the question after the game about the balance between playing Jimmy enough to keep yourself in the playoff race and also not wearing him down. He seems to have found that balance at about 33 minutes. To me, it's 3 minutes too short. That sounds like not a lot, 3 minutes. But we've seen these games go to hell when Jimmy's on the bench, particularly when Bam's on the bench with him. So those 3 minutes could be an 8-2 run. That 8-2 run could ultimately decide the game. I asked the question here to title this episode, can the Heat find rhythm? They cannot find rhythm unless Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are on the court, and they're on the court together. It's just that simple. Now, they did some decent things, or Spoelstra did, in terms of tweaking the rotation with putting Butler out there with the subs and taking Tyler out of that responsibility, because he's not really fit for it. It's not his fault, but he's not Chris Bosh. It's not like when they took LeBron and Dwayne off and they had a great 2-way player who's going to the Hall of Fame to anchor the second unit. No, that was Bosh time, and it worked because he was Chris Bosh. Tyler Hero is a really good player. He's not Chris Bosh, and he's certainly not Chris Bosh on the defensive end, so which means that he can't really anchor that group. And the way Oladipo is shot, you're asking Hero and Oladipo to anchor that group. That doesn't work. This comes in here. I just got in the chat for Gio. I just got in the chat. We need to kind of stop starting quarters without Jimmy and Bam. LOL, exactly. And Brady and I were charting that in the last game. And actually, Spoelstra cut it to about 2.5 minutes because he made sure, I believe it was Bam, yes, it was Bam, who was back on the floor to start the fourth. You cannot play without both of them. I know they don't have great chemistry. Their stats are better than the eye test when it comes to the way that they play together. But you're not a good basketball team when they're not playing. And I understand that they both need rest. I get it. But first thing, they should never be off the floor together at the same time. And second thing, as far as Jimmy goes, 33 minutes when you're chasing a seed right now is not enough. I think he needs to play 36, even on the back-to-backs. I get what the contract's going to look like at the end. That's the bargain you made, though. Like, if you're not going to play him, then why pay him? That's how I come down to that. That's number one. Number two, we saw aggressive, purposeful Bam. Now, we saw it all year until the All-Star break, and then he came back from the All-Star break with his head in the clouds. He did not play well for the first 5 games after the All-Star break, for the most part. We saw him play well in this last game. We saw them find the inverted pick and roll with him and Hero, because the pick and roll, as Cooper Moorhead has said, between him and Hero, which was so effective early in the season, like totally tanked. So they need to do some different things there. But I do believe, okay, whereas I don't believe Jimmy's necessarily going to get more minutes, I do believe that Bam is going to go on a straight line back up now. The third thing they need, okay, we can talk about Hero. We talked about Hero plenty. But the third thing that they need is they need some of these undrafteds, okay, who they counted on last year to show up in this last kind of fifth of the season. Like, we're starting to see it from Caleb Martin. Now we need to see it from Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. Because look, Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry were the starting backcourt last season, okay? And neither of them are in the plans right now. Duncan is active, available. He's not playing. They're not going to design an offense around him anymore and cover up for his defensive weaknesses. And as far as Kyle goes, I said the day before the trade deadline, I did not expect him to play a big role for this team going forward. And that's pretty much how it's played out. Okay, I know they had conversations. Barry's reported that to try to smooth things over. Counting on Kyle Lowry at this stage, just like counting on Victor Oladipo to stay healthy, counting on Kyle Lowry to stay kind of with the program and happy with everything that's going on and pointing in the right direction. And his knee being healthy, I don't think you can count on all those things. It might happen, but I don't think you can count on all those things. So when I add all of that together, I say this, okay? More minutes for Jimmy. Bam, come out purposeful. The guards need to throw him the damn ball sometimes. And the third thing is these undrafteds. Okay, Strus and Vincent have cost themselves a lot of money. Caleb's made his money, or he's made a decent chunk of money. And he's lived up to the contract. But those two guys in particular, Max and Gabe, need to be more consistent. I mean, Gabe went through a stretch where he basically made 3 out of 19 shots. And Max has been kind of unplayable, which was not the case last season. They were really good with him starting, and they were really good with him playing. That has not been what's happened this season. So these are all things to watch for going forward. If you have any comments to throw up, I do want to mention a couple of things. We always use Starting 9 as kind of a platform for the day. We're going to have, obviously, the usual pregame and postgame shows here today. Me, Alex, and Brady all supposed to go to the game tonight. But also, we have in the middle of the game, well, the entire game, actually, we have playback. So check that out. You can watch the stream and comment with us, complain with us. I've got a chat comment here. No new comments. Nobody has anything to say today. All right, so there we go. Max caught a case of the Duncans. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think what happened here with Max is that he was figured out to a certain degree. And also the Heat put a burden on him that was too much to ask. And I think when we look at these undrafteds, I don't think that they have to get away from this program. It is good to mine players this way. It is good to find diamonds in the rough, okay? It helps you with your tax sheet for sure, which is something that the Heat care about. It helps you with your salary cap. It just helps you with your roster construction. With that being said, though, you cannot count on these guys to be stars, or even starters. You're counting on them to reach a level where they can be an effective rotation player for you. Like what Haywood Highsmith could be at this moment for the Heat if they hadn't pivoted and gone a different direction. That's what you're looking for with undrafteds. There's a reason that they were undrafted. There's a reason Udonis Haslem is such an anomaly, playing 20 years as an undrafted player. It just doesn't happen very often. So what the Heat did was they kind of got addicted to their own success in terms of creating players out of nothing, and then thinking that they could keep building them, they hit a plateau. Gabe and Max want to be paid this summer. Anybody would. If they're going to convince the Heat to pay them anything at all, they need to be better here over the last 15 to 17 games of the season, and then into the play-in or playoffs or whatever it is. All right, we went short today. Not a ton of comments. I apologize. Started late. I might as well tell people. I couldn't figure out that I had this thing hooked up to my Bluetooth. Check out All Pro Construction Builders. Check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5. It's Cousin Croc. Will Yurt make the rotation when he comes back? I don't think he will from the very start because I think they like what Cody Zeller is doing. But an interesting debate going forward, okay? Because Greg and I touched on this last night. Who gets more minutes in critical games, Kevin Love or Cody Zeller? I'm not sure it's Kevin Love. I know that he was essentially promised a starting spot. They're still giving it to him. He played only 18 minutes in this past game. It feels like the minutes have shrunk since he's come in. They haven't gone up. Zeller kind of just knows his role, doesn't get in the way and all that, doesn't really hurt you defensively the way that Love does. I know that Love is a better long-range shooter, but so far he's not making his shots. But I don't think that Yurt gets in over Zeller right now. They were very purposeful about adding Zeller. He's done a good job so far. All right, unless there are any other comments, again, we appreciate it. All Pro Construction Builders, Prize Picks, use code 5. Check out Playback. We got more comments coming in late here. John Davis, Santiago Font. What seems to be the bigger issue, Tyler's selfishness, the constant acclamation of players, the role players not playing as well as they should. Well, I don't want to say Tyler's selfish. I know that's the common thing that's out there right now. He doesn't have terrible efficiency. He really doesn't. His usage rate is not through the roof or anything like that. Not for the modern NBA. And he's been asked to handle a lot so I don't like the term selfish for him. The Heat don't think of him as selfish. It's his play style that may not fit so well with Bam and Jimmy. Now you can say there's a selfish element to that play style. I guess you can make that argument, but I don't consider Tyler selfishness. The other parts of this, to me, what's happened this season, okay, it's gotten forgotten now. You have a $28 million point guard who gave you nothing. Nothing. You can't afford that these days. Like, we talk about what they should have done this offseason. That's what they did the previous offseason. You can't have a $28 million player doing nothing. I think that's the single biggest thing that's hurt this team this year. If Kyle Lowry played to a reasonable level this year and he can still guard on the perimeter, you didn't have to use Caleb on all the guards, and Kyle was actually aggressive and making shots, like, I really think a lot of their problems would have been solved. But that can't be counted on at this stage at all. Are we done? Manny, are we done? Or do we have another one? Are we done? There we go, Gio. The way they ran action for Bam Adebayo and Jimmy last game, why haven't we seen more of that? I don't know. Again, there seems to be this reluctance to run actions with Bam and Jimmy. They used to run a lot. Then it kind of became Bam and Tyler. And it's kind of Jimmy isolations. They should run more of that. There's nothing Spo should hide at this point. Like, just throw it all out there. Throw it all out there. This team is not going anywhere anyway. Try to get the best possible seed to make this season palatable. I know I shouldn't say that on the Heat program. And we'll have more Heat programming tonight. All right, that's it. 15 minutes. We got to 13 and a half. This one comes in. Are the Knicks for real, Manny asks. I grew up a Knicks fan. They are never, ever, ever, ever for real. They had a parade outside the Sbarro for beating Trae Young one time. And I'm a New Yorker. Have a good day, everybody.